and welcome back to another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. This is the show where I do quick reviews for the movies that I watch, give them a score out of 10, and then add them to my list. So let's see what movie we're reviewing today. On April 14th, I watched Oblivion, which came out in 2013. And I wouldn't normally copy and paste something straight from IMDb, but they have a single sentence plot summary that really says it all. A veteran assigned to extract Earth's remaining resources begins to question what he knows about his mission and himself. And with that, I'd be willing to bet more than a few people could guess most of the plot from there. Tom Cruise stars as the vet in question, Jack, with Andrea Riseborough and Olga Kurylenko both putting in strong performances as Victoria and Julia, respectively. The nice surprise here was definitely Morgan Freeman as Beach, the leader of the rebel group, who ultimately had all the answers to Jack's important questions about the plot. I call it surprising not because of how good the performance was, since that's to be expected from Freeman, but rather because this one came out in 2013, so it must surely have been one of the last roles he would get that wouldn't need to be defined by his age. It's a sad truth about being an actor that once you start to look too old, the only roles left for you need to be defined by it. So I'm glad Morgan got one more good chance like this to be an action hero one last time. I've never had much to say about Tom Cruise's acting ability, but it's easy to tell he tends to do movies like this, since it's easier to hide that limited acting range behind a cool, interesting story filled with crazy technologies and big explosions. The story here is just too predictable though, especially when compared to something like Edge of Tomorrow. Both of those movies center around war with aliens in the future and a confused hero who needs help from those around him to piece it all together. But where Edge of Tomorrow had a confusing enough plot and that interesting Groundhog Day formula to add to the chaos of it all helping to justify Tom's need for help. Here, the plot is so simple and obvious that it just makes his character look stupid for not being able to put it all together. This is even more of a factor for the character Victoria, who even after having multiple pieces of evidence presented to her, still refuses to see the truth. I understand the need for these contrarian characters as a clear obstacle for the protagonist to overcome, but the opposition they offer needs to be much more justified, or at least understandable than it was here. A more apt title for this movie might have just been Oblivious, since that seemed to be the common theme here. Being an action, adventure, sci-fi film means I have to measure it up against some of my favorite movies ever, since I love those genres so much. And there's just so many movies I could recommend before this one. Not that there's anything terribly wrong with this one per se, it just doesn't measure up against those other truly great movies. A lack of acting ability, a far too predictable plot, and some really bland narration from Cruise are the biggest knocks against it. Overall, it's still a satisfying enough summer blockbuster, so if you can lower your expectations to where they would be if you were watching something like Kong or Godzilla, I think you'd be happy enough with this one. Just don't go in expecting 2001: A Space Odyssey or Moon, because this is not that. I ended up giving it a 5 out of 10, and it landed at number 952 on my list, putting it right here, in between The Matrix Reloaded and Volcano, two similarly dumb action movies. And as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. Be sure to click like and subscribe for new videos every week. And if you have a movie that you really want me to watch, be sure to drop me a comment.